Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Right, so I'm sure a lot of you have heard by now that Joseph Parker, the former WBO World Heavyweight Champion, has now parted ways with longtime trainer in Kevin Barry. And the reason why they've parted ways, if you guys want to read up on Joseph Parker's statement, Kevin Barry's statement, and David Higgins' statement, that will be in the description box. But the reason why they've parted ways is due to logistics. Now, I know a lot of people have been wanting Joseph Parker to get rid of Kevin Barry for a long time. People have been calling for that for a long, long time. But now you've kind of got your wish. But it's an amicable split because Kevin Barry, as much as he is from New Zealand, of course he did represent New Zealand and won the silver at the Olympic Games, he is living and based in Las Vegas. That's where his gym is, and that's where he trains other boxers and, of course, high-end businessmen from like Wall Street and whatever else. So that's his business over there. For Joseph Parker to continue with Kevin Barry, he has to leave his very, very young family in New Zealand and go over to Las Vegas for months at a time for his training camp. And quite clearly, Joseph Parker, he wants to spend as much time with his family as possible, especially now they are very, very young. Now, for his last fight against Junior Fa, Kevin Barry, of course, he went over to New Zealand, and I'm sure he loves spending time in New Zealand. That's where he's from. I'm sure that's where his heart is. But clearly he was missing his family, and he's neglecting his business in Las Vegas, because it's not just Joseph Parker he was overseeing. In fact, previous to Joseph Parker, one of the biggest names that Kevin Barry had around, of course, he was manager for a number of years for David Tua, and then later as trainer for David Tua as well. So Kevin Barry, he's got a wealth of experience, but logistically, of course, we understand that. But we have seen before when Joseph Parker, he does spend a lot of time with his family, he does put on a bit of timber. Okay, he does put on a little bit of weight. So hopefully it's not going to be a case of whoever's going to be training him now, which is going to be quite difficult to predict as to who's going to be training, because it's going to have to be somebody who's willing to go over to New Zealand, or somebody who's local in New Zealand, or maybe Australia, or those kind of surrounding countries. But it's very, very difficult to predict who his training is going to be. Maybe it's already been announced as of me recording this video, and I haven't seen it yet. But hopefully it's not going to be a case of he does his training camp, and every single day he goes home to his wife and kids. Because as much as, of course, boxers want that, and they want to see their family as much as they possibly can and what have you, they are somewhat of a distraction. This is the peak, the pinnacle of Joseph Parker's career. So, unfortunately, as many boxers do, they have to sacrifice their time with their family to dedicate on their craft. Now, don't get me wrong, Joseph Parker, he has been doing that. He's been going over to Las Vegas. And in fact, didn't he miss the birth of one of his children, I think, as well, because he was over in Las Vegas. But he's going to want to spend as much time as possible with them, but hopefully not every single day during training camp, because he still does, if he's still got ambition in the sport to become world champion or whatever it may be, he's going to have to really, really dedicate his time to his craft. And once his career is over, that's when you kind of spend time with your family. But of course, I understand it. I'm a father and that myself. Many of you guys are fathers, mothers, and what have you too, where you do want to spend time with your children, especially when they're very, very small. Okay, so of course, I understand it. Many people do. But as I said before, a lot of people have got their wish that Kevin Barry is no longer training Joseph Parker. A lot of people feel that the style of Joseph Parker was at times a little too negative. And that's because of the instructions of Kevin Barry or whatever it may be. Some people think that if Joseph Parker had another trainer in there, Joseph Parker's style of being very, very fast just needs that bit more explosiveness to become a real threat in the heavyweight division again. Not that he's not a threat in the heavyweight division, of course he is. I mean, he's a former champion. He's gone the distance with Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. And of course, he defeated Andy Ruiz Jr. And in fact, he defeated Hughie Fury, he defeated Carlos Takam, and quite a few other ones. Joseph Parker has a very, very good resume. I think people do overlook and forget that. But anyway, it is what it is. That's the reason why they've split up. Logistic reasons. Kevin Barry, he wants to be continue being based in Las Vegas. Joseph Parker wants his training camps to be New Zealand end. Of course, they are coming into a lockdown now as well over in New Zealand. So, of course, if he's going to be preparing for Derek Chisora quite clearly he's probably going to want to be doing his training camp in New Zealand, because obviously he can't travel internationally and that at the minute. So he's going to probably have somebody local training for the Derek Chisora fight. Obviously Kevin Barry wasn't willing to spend another several weeks or a couple of months, whatever it may be, in New Zealand away from his own family. So anyway, that's what's going on. It's very, very amicable, of course, but we'll have to wait and see who is going to replace Kevin Barry as Joseph Parker's head trainer. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all in the next video.